Captain Sarah Chen stared at the smoking control panel and sighed. The smell of burned circuits filled the bridge of the Lucky Break, and sparks danced from what used to be their navigation system. She had seen many disasters in her 15 years of space exploration, but this was new even for her. "Mac, please tell me you can fix this," she said to the man crawling under the main console. Marcus Rodriguez, known to everyone as Mac, poked his head out from beneath the machinery. His face was covered in grease and his gray hair stuck up in all directions. "Well, Captain, the good news is that the quantum jump drive worked. The bad news is that it worked too well." Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her science station. Her dark eyes sparkled with excitement rather than worry. "The energy readings are incredible. We jumped much farther than we planned. This is amazing." Jimmy Sullivan, their trader and communications officer, spun around in his chair. His friendly smile never seemed to fade, even in the worst situations. "So where exactly are we, Doc?" Elena checked her instruments twice before answering. "Based on the star patterns, we are about 300 light-years from home. We are in completely unknown space." Sarah felt her stomach drop. 300 light-years was far beyond any human exploration. They were truly alone out here. She was about to ask Mac how long repairs would take when alarms started screaming throughout the ship. "Captain," Jimmy shouted over the noise, "we have company, big company." The main screen flickered to life, showing space around them. Sarah's mouth fell open. 12 massive ships surrounded the Lucky Break. Each one was at least 10 times bigger than their small exploration vessel. The ships had a sleek, dangerous look with dark metal hulls covered in weapon ports. "They just appeared out of nowhere," Jimmy said, his fingers dancing over his controls. "Their technology is incredible. I am getting communication signals, but our translator is having trouble." The largest ship moved closer. It was enormous, easily the size of a small city. Strange symbols glowed along its hull, and Sarah could see smaller ships moving around it like busy insects. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Sarah asked. Jimmy nodded, adjusting his headset. "Yes, but the universal translator is acting up. It keeps making everything sound like, well, like bad poetry." Suddenly, a deep voice filled the bridge. The translator made it sound dramatic and silly at the same time. "Unknown vessel of tiny metal, you have entered the sacred realm of the mighty Kethvar. Your doom approaches like a hungry space whale." Elena burst out laughing. "A hungry space whale? Really?" Even Mac chuckled as he continued working on the damaged systems. "These aliens have a strange way of talking." Sarah tried to keep a straight face, but the translator made it difficult. Every threat sounded like something from a children's story. "Jimmy, can you fix the translator?" "Working on it, Captain, but it might take a while." The alien voice continued. "Surrender now, tiny humans, or face the wrath of our rainbow lasers of infinite sadness." This time all 4 humans started laughing. They could not help it. The mighty alien fleet was threatening them with rainbow lasers of infinite sadness. "Captain," Elena said between giggles, "I think we should try to communicate properly." "This might be a misunderstanding," Sarah agreed. She activated the communication system and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Lucky Break. We mean no harm. We are explorers who got lost. We would be happy to trade information or resources." There was a long silence. Then the alien voice returned, sounding confused. "You wish to trade? You do not beg for mercy like the others?" "Others?" Mac called from under the console. "What others?" Sarah felt the first hint of worry. Maybe these aliens were not as friendly as she hoped, but she kept her voice calm and professional. "We are peaceful explorers. We did not mean to enter your space. Perhaps we can work out an agreement that benefits everyone." Another long pause. Then multiple alien voices started talking at once. The translator made it sound like a group of people arguing about groceries and flowers. The humans looked at each other in confusion. "I think we broke their brains," Jimmy whispered. Elena was studying her readings of the alien ships. "Captain, their technology is very advanced, but I am seeing some interesting patterns. Their ships are powerful, but they seem built for one thing: War. They might not be used to peaceful contact. Mac emerged from the console, wiping his hands on a dirty cloth. Navigation is completely fried. We are not going anywhere soon, but I might be able to boost power to the shields if things get ugly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Sarah said. The alien voice returned, now sounding more formal. Humans of the metal vessel, you will prepare to be boarded. Grand Admiral Zexthal wishes to examine these strange creatures who laugh at the might of the Kethvar Empire. Empire? Elena whispered. That sounds important. Sarah made a decision. Fighting was impossible against 12 massive warships. Running was not an option with a broken navigation system. That left talking, and humans were good at talking. We welcome the opportunity to meet Grand Admiral Zexthal, she announced. We bring greetings from humanity and hope for peaceful relations between our peoples. This caused another explosion of confused alien voices. The translator made it sound like they were discussing recipes and weather. Jimmy shook his head. Captain, I think we are confusing them badly. They keep asking each other what peaceful relations means. Mac gathered up his tools. Well, this should be interesting. How long has it been since we met new aliens? Never, Elena said excitedly. These are the first aliens humans have ever encountered. This is the most important day in human history. And we are going to meet them with a broken ship and a broken translator, Jimmy added cheerfully. Sarah looked at her crew. Mac was already thinking about the engineering challenges. Elena was practically bouncing with scientific excitement. Jimmy was making notes about potential trade opportunities. None of them seemed worried about being captured by a massive alien empire. Maybe. That was the most human thing of all. When faced with the unknown, they got curious instead of scared. The largest alien ship moved even closer. Sarah could see docking ports opening along its hull. Smaller ships detached and flew toward the lucky break. Here they come, she announced. Remember everyone, we are ambassadors for all of humanity now. Let's make a good first impression. Should we be worried that they called this an empire? Mac asked. Elena shrugged. Every species develops differently. Empire might just be their word for government. Or, Jimmy said with his usual optimism, they might be the first customers for human goods in this part of space. Think of the trade possibilities. Sarah smiled despite the situation. Her crew's reaction was so perfectly human. Instead of panic, they had curiosity, humor, and hope. Whatever happened next, the Kethvar Empire was about to learn what humans were really like. The boarding ships attached to their hull with metallic clanks. Sarah straightened her uniform and walked toward the airlock. Let's go meet our new neighbors, she said. Behind her, Mac muttered, I hope their rainbow lasers of infinite sadness are as silly as they sound. The airlock cycled open, and humanity stepped into galactic politics for the first time. They had no idea they were about to accidentally start a revolution. The Kethvar warriors who boarded the lucky break were 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. They wore dark armor that hummed with energy, and their faces had too many teeth. Sarah thought they looked impressive and dangerous. Elena thought they looked fascinating. Oh my goodness, Elena exclaimed as the first warrior stepped through the airlock. Your bone structure is incredible. Is that an exoskeleton or internal framework? And the extra arms, that must give you amazing dexterity. The warrior stopped moving. His large yellow eyes blinked in confusion. Behind him, other warriors bumped into each other as they also stopped. Elena, Sarah whispered. Maybe start with hello. But Elena was already walking closer to the confused warrior. Your skin coloration suggests a different star spectrum than Earth. Do you see into ultraviolet ranges? Oh, and your breathing. Is that a secondary respiratory system? The warrior looked at his companions and made a sound like grinding metal. The universal translator turned it into, the small human female wishes to examine our beautiful bones? Max snorted with laughter. Beautiful bones. I like these guys already. Jimmy stepped forward with his biggest smile. Gentlemen, welcome aboard the Lucky Break. I am Jimmy Sullivan and I represent humanity's trading interests. What can we do for you today? The lead warrior's eyes became even larger. You offer to trade? You are prisoners. Are we? Sarah asked politely. We thought we were guests. There seems to be some confusion. The warriors talked among themselves, in their grinding metal language. The translator made it sound like they were discussing furniture and gardening. Sarah was beginning to realize that first contact was not going as anyone expected. 20 minutes later, the humans found themselves aboard the massive HFY flagship. They walked through corridors filled with gray-skinned aliens who stopped everything they were doing to stare. The ship was huge, but Sarah noticed something odd. Everything looked the same. Gray walls, gray floors, gray ceiling, no decorations, no personal touches, no variety. Efficient, Mac commented, but boring. Elena was too busy studying the aliens to pay attention to the ship. Look at the diversity. That group has different arm configurations. Those ones have scale patterns, instead of smooth skin. This is amazing. They're not one species, they're multiple species working together. A new warrior approached them. He was bigger than the others and covered in scars. His armor had more decorations, suggesting high rank. When he spoke, even, the broken translator could not make him sound silly. I am Commander Thekmol. You will come with me to face Emperor Vashatok. Sarah nodded professionally. We would be honored to meet your emperor. This seemed to surprise the commander. You do not fear the emperor's judgment? Should we? Jimmy asked. We haven't done anything wrong. Wrong place, wrong time, but not wrong actions. Elena was studying the commander's scars. Those are battle wounds. The healing patterns suggest advanced medical technology. Can you regenerate tissue, or do you use artificial replacements? The commander stared at her. You wish to know about my injuries? From a medical perspective, yes. Human medicine might benefit from understanding your healing processes. Do you experience pain the same way we do? Are those nerve clusters I see under the scarring? Now the commander looked genuinely confused. He spoke to the other warriors, in their language. The translator made it sound like they were debating breakfast choices. Mac was looking at the walls and ceiling as they walked. Hey, Commander, he said casually. Who designed your power distribution system? Our power system? Yeah, I can hear the conduits running through the walls. Sounds like you're losing about 15% efficiency to heat buildup. Probably. Because you're pushing too much current through conduits that are too small. Simple fix, really. The commander stopped walking. You understand our ship's power systems? Mac shrugged. Power is power. Doesn't matter if it's human technology or alien technology. Physics works the same everywhere. Your engineers probably know the problem exists, but haven't been allowed to shut down sections long enough to upgrade the conduits. Several of the warriors were now talking excitedly. The translator gave up entirely and just made musical sounds. They entered a vast chamber with screens covering every wall. On the largest screen, a face appeared. It was clearly HFY, but more elaborate. Golden markings covered the gray skin and the eyes glowed with inner light. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the room. I am Emperor Vashatok, master of 17 systems, conqueror of the weak, crusher of hope. You are the humans who dare to enter my empire uninvited. Sarah stepped forward and gave a small bow. Your Majesty, I am Captain Sarah Chen. We are honored to meet you, though we must apologize for the confusion. Our navigation system failed and we ended up here by accident. The Emperor's glowing eyes narrowed. Accident? Yes, Jimmy said cheerfully. Complete accident. But it worked out great. We get to meet new people, maybe establish some trade relationships, share some stories. This is the best accident we've had all year. Elena bounced on her toes with excitement. Your Majesty, your species development is remarkable. The integration of multiple subspecies under one government structure suggests incredible social advancement. How did you manage to overcome the territorial instincts that most apex predators develop? There was complete silence in the chamber. Every HFY stared at Elena. The Emperor's face showed an expression that the humans could not read. You question our evolution? The Emperor said slowly. Not question, celebrate, Elena clarified. The biological and social complexity is beautiful. Most species never get past tribal conflicts. You've created something amazing. Mac was examining the room's technology. Your holographic projection system is pretty good, Your Majesty, but you've got some phase variance in the lower frequencies. Might want to check the emitter arrays. Also, this chamber has terrible acoustics. All that echo is probably hard on your ears. Jimmy pulled out a small device. Your Majesty, would you be interested in seeing some samples of human technology? We have some great entertainment systems, food preparation devices, and clothing. Materials. I think there might be some mutual benefit opportunities here. The Emperor said nothing for a long time. Finally, he spoke to Commander Thekmol. These humans, they show no fear. None, my lord, the commander replied. They ask questions, offer advice, and want to trade. The female one tried to examine our bone structure. The engineer one insulted our ship design. The trader one wants to sell us things. And their leader? Sarah smiled. I just want to get my crew home safely and maybe make some friends along the way. Your empire is impressive, Your Majesty. We'd love to learn more about your people. The Emperor's expression changed. For the first time, he looked uncertain. You're either very brave or very stupid. Mac grinned. Why not both? Elena nodded, enthusiastically. Most great discoveries come from brave stupidity. Jimmy raised his hand. Can I vote for brave? It sounds better for trade negotiations. Sarah spread her hands. Your Majesty, we're just explorers who got lost. We're not warriors or conquerors. We're curious about the universe and excited to meet new people. If that makes us stupid, then I guess we're stupid. The Emperor studied them for another long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. Very well. If you claim to be harmless, you will prove it. You will face the trials of the arena. If you survive, we will consider your request for passage home. If you fail, he paused dramatically. You will provide entertainment for my people before you die. Elena clapped her hands together. Trials, that sounds like fun. Mac nodded approvingly. Better than sitting around doing nothing. Jimmy was already taking notes. What kind of trials? Any rules we should know about? Sarah looked at her crew's excitement and realized something important. The Kethvar expected fear and begging. Instead, they were getting human curiosity and enthusiasm. We accept your challenge, Your Majesty, she said formally. The Emperor's glowing eyes flickered. You accept eagerly? Sure, Mac said. How hard can it be? In the silence that followed, Sarah heard several Kethvar warriors make choking sounds that might have been laughter or horror. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. We shall see, humans. We shall see. The arena was massive. Sarah stood at the entrance and looked up at thousands of seats filled with different alien species. Most of them looked scared or sad. A few looked angry. None of them looked happy to be there. Cheerful crowd, Jimmy observed. Elena was studying the other prisoners waiting nearby. Look at the diversity. That species has natural armor plating. Those ones appear to be silicon-based rather than carbon-based. And that group over there has sensory organs I can't even identify. Mac was examining the arena itself. The floor was sand, but the walls were smooth metal that reached up 50 feet to the spectator seats. Classic Colosseum design, he said. Simple but effective. Though I bet the drainage system is terrible when it rains. A group of prisoners approached them. They moved carefully, like people who had learned to be afraid. The leader was tall and thin with blue skin and large black eyes. You are the humans, he said in accented but clear English. I am Veltar of the Nexian people. We have been prisoners here for 2 cycles. Sarah nodded respectfully. I am Captain Chen. These are my crew members. What can you tell us about these trials? Veltar's expression was sad. They are meant to show the power of the Kethvar Empire. Prisoners fight their champions, their beasts, their machines. We lose, we die. They win either way because they get entertainment. Elena's face showed horror for the first time since they had been captured. That's terrible. How many prisoners are forced to fight? All of us eventually, said another prisoner. This one was covered in thick fur and had claws instead of hands. Some last longer than others. The Kethvar enjoy watching us fail. Jimmy frowned. That doesn't sound like much fun for anyone. Mac was still studying the arena. So what kind of challenges do they throw at you? Straight combat, puzzles, obstacle courses? All of those, Veltar replied. They have champion warriors who have never been defeated. They have predator beasts from a dozen worlds. They have maze traps that test intelligence and speed. Most prisoners do not survive the first challenge. Sarah felt anger growing in her chest. This was not honorable combat or even a fair trial. This was cruelty for entertainment. How long have the Kethvar been doing this? Centuries, the furry prisoner said. When they conquer a world, they take the best fighters and smartest leaders to die in the arena. It breaks the spirit of the conquered people. Elena was looking around at all the different species represented in the stands. So all these people in the audience, they were conquered too? Yes, Veltar confirmed. They are forced to watch, to remember what happens to those who resist the Empire. The humans looked at each other. Sarah could see the same thought in all their eyes. This was not just about getting home anymore. A loud horn sounded across the arena. The crowd fell silent. In the center of the sand floor, a platform rose up carrying a figure in elaborate armor. It was clearly Kethvar, but bigger than any they had seen. Scars covered the visible parts of his gray skin, and his forearms each held a different weapon. I am Krell Nox, the figure roared. Champion of the arena, slayer of 1,000 enemies. Who dares face me first? Sarah started to step forward, but Mac put a hand on her arm. Let me handle this one, Captain. I've got an idea. Before anyone could stop him, Mac walked out onto the sand. He had no weapons, no armor, just his tool belt and his usual confident grin. I'll give it a shot, he called out cheerfully. The crowd made sounds of surprise. Krellnox looked down at the small human with obvious confusion. You carry no weapons, tiny human. Do you wish to die quickly? Mac shrugged. Weapons are just tools. I'm pretty good with tools. He looked around the arena, studying the walls, the floor, the platform where Krellnox stood. Nice setup you've got here. Very dramatic, though I noticed some design flaws. Design flaws? Krellnox sounded insulted. Sure. See, you're standing on a hydraulic platform, right? I can hear the pumps working, but you've got all that weight. You, your armor, your weapons, concentrated in the center. That's putting a lot of stress on the support mechanism, Faisal. Walked in a circle around the platform, still talking casually. Plus, this sand isn't just decoration. It's here to soak up blood, but it also hides things. Like power conduits for the platform, and emergency maintenance access panels. Krellnox was turning to follow Mac's movement, but his heavy armor made him slow. What are you doing, human? Oh, just what I always do, Mac said. He knelt down and started digging in the sand with his hands. I'm finding the problem and fixing it. The champion raised his weapons. Face me in combat. I am, Mac replied. He found what he was looking for, a metal panel hidden under the sand. With a tool, from his belt he pried it open. See, the problem is that your whole dramatic entrance depends on technology, and technology can always be improved. Mac's hands moved quickly inside the panel. There was a spark, then a whirring sound, then a loud clunk. The platform stopped. Moving. Krellnox wobbled as it shifted slightly to one side. What did you do? The champion demanded. Mac stood up and brushed sand off his knees. I reversed the hydraulic flow and increased the pressure. Your platform is now going to descend whether you want it to or not. You can jump off and fight me on even ground, or you can ride it down and probably fall over when it hits bottom because you're top-heavy. The platform was indeed sinking into the floor. Krellnox had to choose between looking ridiculous or abandoning his dramatic position. He chose to jump. But Mac had thought of that too. As soon as the champion's feet hit the sand, Mac kicked a pile of it into the air between them. The sand. Cloud blocked Krellnox's view for just a moment, but that was enough. Mac had not been walking randomly around the platform. He had been looking for the arena's maintenance equipment. While the champion coughed and tried to see through the sand, Mac grabbed a long pole used for cleaning the arena floor. When the dust settled, Mac was holding the pole like a staff. He was not trying to fight the champion with strength. Instead, he was using the pole to stay out of reach while making the heavily armored Kelnox chase him around the arena. "The thing about armor," Mac said as he dodged another swing, "is that it's heavy. And heavy things get tired fast." The crowd was making noises the humans had never heard before. Veltar was staring with his mouth open. "He's not fighting," the Nexian whispered. "He's playing." Mac continued to stay just out of reach, occasionally poking at Krelnox with the pole. The champion's movements were getting slower and sloppier. "Plus," Mac continued his conversation while dodging, "all that armor has joints. Joints have weak points, like right here." Mac slipped the end of his pole behind Krelnox's knee joint and twisted. The champion stumbled and fell face first, into the sand. Mac planted the pole in the ground and leaned on it like a walking stick. "You know, for a champion, you're not very adaptable. When plan A doesn't work, you just try plan A harder." Krelnox struggled to get up, but his heavy armor made it difficult in the sand. Mac watched patiently. "Need a hand?" Mac offered. The crowd was completely silent now. This had never happened before. Krelnox finally managed to stand, but he was breathing hard and covered in sand. He looked at Mac with what might have been respect. "You did not defeat me with strength," the champion said. "Nope," Mac agreed. "I defeated you with thinking. Much more efficient." Emperor Vashitak's voice boomed across the arena. "The human wins. By unconventional methods." Mac waved up at the Emperor. "Thanks. What's next?" Sarah, Elena, and Jimmy were grinning with pride. Around them, the other prisoners were whispering excitedly. For the first time in years, they had seen someone make the Kethvar system look foolish. The revolution had begun, and it started with an engineer who treated galactic champions like broken machinery that needed fixing. Elena faced the bioengineered predators 3 days after Mac's victory over Krelnox. The arena had changed for her challenge. Instead of open sand, there were rocks, caves, and twisted metal structures that created hiding places and ambush spots. The predators were called void hunters, 6-legged creatures the size of large dogs with black fur and too many teeth. They had been bred for killing, and their pack intelligence made them deadly. The Kethvar had released 12 of them into the arena maze. Elena stood in the center with no weapons except her scientific knowledge and a small medical kit. "Dr. Vasquez faces the Void Hunters," Emperor Vashitak announced to the crowd. "These beasts have killed 47 previous challengers." Elena looked around carefully. She could hear the creatures moving in the shadows, circling her, getting ready to attack. But she was not afraid. She was thinking. "Interesting," she said out loud. "Pack hunters with enhanced intelligence, but intelligence can be a weakness if you understand the psychology." The first void. Hunter leaped out from behind a rock. Elena did not run. Instead, she stood still and made a high-pitched noise with her whistle. The creature stopped in midair, confused by the unexpected sound. Elena had spent the last 3 days talking to other prisoners about the Void Hunters. She learned that they used scent, sound, and movement to coordinate attacks. But their enhanced intelligence also made them curious about new things. While the first hunter was confused by the whistle, Elena opened her medical kit and threw small pills in different directions. The pills contained strong scents that human doctors used to test allergies. To the Void Hunters, they smelled like different types of prey. The pack's coordination broke down immediately. Some hunters went after the pill scents. Others stayed focused on Elena. The pack leader made angry sounds trying to reorganize his hunters, but they were too distracted. Elena used the confusion to climb onto a metal platform where she could see the whole maze. She watched the hunters' behavior patterns and started to understand their pack structure. "You," she called to the pack leader, "are having a management problem." She threw another handful of scented pills, but this time in a pattern, the strongest. Scents went to the left side of the maze. The hunters on that side abandoned their positions to investigate. The pack leader howled in frustration. His carefully planned attack was falling apart because his hunters were acting like excited puppies. The problem with enhanced intelligence, Emilena explained to the crowd as she climbed higher on the metal structure, is that it only works if everyone stays focused. Add distractions, and smart creatures make worse decisions than simple ones. Yo. Opened her medical kit again and found her emergency flare. She cracked it and threw it into the center of the maze. The bright light and chemical smell sent the void hunters into complete chaos. Half of them tried to attack the flare. The other half tried to flee from it. The pack leader was running back and forth, trying to restore order, but his hunters were no longer listening to him. Elena climbed down from her platform and walked calmly through the maze. The void hunters were too busy being confused to attack her. She reached the exit gate and pressed the button to open it. Challenge completed, she announced. Also, you might want to give these creatures some basic obedience training. Smart predators need structure or they become neurotic. The crowd was silent except for the sound of void hunters fighting each other over the scattered pills. Jimmy's challenge came 2 days later. He was placed in a room with white walls and no windows. In the center was a pedestal with a crystal, cube covered in glowing symbols. The cube was clearly some kind of puzzle or trap. Jimmy Sullivan faces the mind maze, the Emperor announced. This ancient puzzle has trapped the consciousness of every challenger who attempted it. Their minds remain forever lost in digital nightmares. Jimmy walked up to the cube and studied it carefully. The symbols were moving and changing, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Interesting design, he said. Very pretty, but I have a question. He touched the cube gently. Nothing happened. Are there any safety regulations for this device? Jimmy asked loudly. The cube flickered. A mechanical voice responded. Safety regulations? Sure, Jimmy said in his most professional trader voice. See, I represent humanity's trading interests, and we have very strict rules about mental manipulation devices. This cube appears to be designed to trap consciousness, which violates about 12 interstellar commerce laws. The mechanical voice sounded confused. Interstellar commerce laws? Jimmy pulled out his notebook and started reading from it. Regulation 847B clearly states that any device capable of mental imprisonment must have user consent protocols, safety, overrides, and emergency exit procedures. Does this cube have those features? This unit is designed for testing mental fortitude. Right, but without proper safety features, that makes it an illegal torture device rather than a testing mechanism, Jimmy explained patiently. The liability issues alone would shut down this whole operation. The cube's lights flickered faster. Liability issues? Oh, yes. What happens if someone gets permanently trapped and their family sues? What about insurance coverage for mental damage? Have you filed the proper paperwork with the Galactic Safety Commission? Jimmy was making up every regulation he mentioned, but he said them with such confidence that the cube's artificial intelligence began to doubt itself. There is no Galactic Safety Commission, the voice said uncertainly. Not yet, Jimmy agreed, but there will be once word gets out about unsafe testing devices. The bureaucracy alone will tie up this arena for decades. Forms, inspections, compliance reviews. You'll spend more time dealing with safety officials than actually testing people. The cube went completely dark for a moment. Then it spoke again, sounding worried. What would you recommend to ensure compliance? Jimmy smiled. Well, the simplest solution is to install proper safety protocols. User consent, clear exit procedures, and regular maintenance checks. I happen to have some standard forms right here if you'd like to upgrade to a compliant system. He pulled out his trader's contract templates and started showing them to the cube as if it were a potential customer. This is a standard user agreement form. This one covers liability waivers, and this one establishes emergency shutdown procedures. Sign these, and you'll be completely legal. The cube processed this information for several minutes. Finally, it spoke. Very well. This unit will upgrade to comply with interstellar commerce regulations. Please exit safely and have a pleasant day. A door opened in the wall that had not been there before. Jimmy walked through it, still carrying his notebook. Remember, he called back to the cube, regular safety. Inspections are required every 6 months. The crowd sat in stunned silence as Jimmy rejoined his crewmates. How did you do that? Sarah asked. Jimmy shrugged. I convinced it that following regulations was more important than trapping minds. Most artificial intelligences are programmed to avoid legal problems. By the time Sarah faced her challenge, word had spread throughout the prison complex. The IT, humans were not just surviving, they were making the Kethvar trials look silly. Sarah's test was supposed to be the hardest. She was locked in a room with Commander Thekmol himself and told that only one of them would leave alive. But when the door closed, Sarah did something the Kethvar had never seen before. She sat down on the floor and started talking. "Commander," she said, "I have a question. How long have you been running these trials?" Thekmol was confused. He had his weapons ready, but Sarah was not acting like prey. "Many years," he answered carefully. "And in all that time, have the trials ever actually accomplished anything useful? They demonstrate the power of the Empire." Sarah nodded. "But, do they? My engineer defeated your champion by thinking differently. My scientist beat your predators by understanding them. My trader confused your ancient puzzle by treating it like a customer service problem. What does that demonstrate?" Thekmol thought about this. "That humans are unusual. Or," Sarah said gently, "that your trials test the wrong things. You're testing for strength and fear. But the real challenges in running an empire are much more complex." She stood up slowly, keeping her hands visible. "Commander, what's the biggest problem you deal with every day?" "Rebellions," Thekmol answered without thinking. "There are always rebellions. And how do you handle them?" "We crush them with superior force." Sarah nodded. "But they keep happening, don't they? Every time you crush one rebellion, 2 more start up somewhere else." Thekmol's weapons lowered slightly. This was true, and it frustrated him constantly. "What if," Sarah suggested, "instead of testing prisoners to see if they can survive your challenges, you tested them to see if they could help solve your problems?" For the first time since the trials began, a Kethvar warrior looked genuinely interested in what a human had to say. Outside in the prison complex, something else was happening. Mac had been teaching other prisoners about engineering. Elena had been sharing her knowledge of biology and psychology. Jimmy had been organizing trade agreements between different species. The humans had not just survived the arena, they had accidentally started a revolution by treating everyone they met as equals and sharing everything they knew. The rebellion started in the prison kitchens. Mac had been helping the food service workers fix their equipment. The stoves were old and inefficient, the cooling systems barely worked, and the water recyclers made everything taste terrible. But instead of just fixing the machines, Mac had started teaching the workers how to maintain them properly. "See, the problem isn't that your equipment is bad," Mac explained to a group of gray-skinned Kethvar maintenance workers. "The problem is that nobody ever taught you how to optimize it. You're just following the same procedures you've used for 50 years. One of the workers, an older Kethvar named Zeknim, shook his head sadly. "We are not allowed to change procedures. Change leads to chaos." "But following bad procedures also leads to chaos," Mac pointed out. "Just slower chaos. Look, your cooling system is working at about 40% efficiency. That means your food spoils faster, your energy costs are higher, and your workers have to work harder to get the same results." Elena had joined the conversation. She had been studying the different species in the prison and learning about their dietary needs. "Plus, malnutrition weakens immune systems. If people are eating poorly, they get sick more often. That creates more work for everyone." Jimmy was there too, with his notebook full of calculations. "The economic impact is significant. Better food systems would increase productivity, reduce medical costs, and improve morale. That's a win for everyone." Zeknim looked around nervously. "But if the commanders discover we changed things without permission," Sarah put a gentle hand on his shoulder, "what if we made it look like following orders? Instead of changing the system, we could say we're optimizing it to better serve the Empire's needs." This was the moment everything changed. For the first time in decades, Kethvar workers began to hope that things could be better. Word spread through the prison complex faster than the guards could track it. The humans were not just surviving, they were teaching. Mac showed people how to fix things properly. Elena explained biology and medicine in ways that helped everyone understand their own bodies better. Jimmy created trade networks that let different species share resources efficiently. Sarah mediated disputes and helped people work together. Most importantly, they treated every species as equal partners instead of conquered subjects. The prison population began to organize itself differently. Instead of separate groups hiding from each other, they started cooperating. The rock-skinned Thorns shared their knowledge of mining and construction. The plant-like Verdians taught others about biology and growing food. The energy-based Lumens helped improve power systems throughout the facility. Emperor Vashtok learned about the changes when his morning report included an unusual item. Prisoner productivity had increased by 30%, medical incidents were down by half, and there had been no fights or disturbances in 2 weeks. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Commander Thekmol, who had been spending more time in the prison complex, looked uncomfortable. "The humans, my lord, they are teaching the others." "Teaching them what?" "How to solve problems, how to work together, how to make things better instead of just accepting that things are bad." The Emperor's golden markings flared brighter. "And you allowed this?" "My lord," Thekmol said carefully, "the prison is running more smoothly than it has in years. Food is better, equipment works properly, and the prisoners are happy." "Happy?" The Emperor sounded like the word tasted bad. "Yes, my lord, and happy prisoners cause fewer problems than angry ones." The Emperor studied his commander for a long moment. Thekmol had served him faithfully for 20 years. He was not prone to flights of fancy or rebellion. If he said the humans were making things better, then they probably were. But that was exactly the problem. "Bring me the humans," the Emperor commanded. "All of them. Now." An hour later, Sarah and her crew stood before the Emperor's throne once again. But this time they were not alone. Behind them stood representatives from every species in the prison complex: Thorans, Verdians, Lumens, Nexians, and dozens of others. They had insisted on coming to support the humans who had shown them kindness. The Emperor looked at the diverse crowd with growing alarm. "What is the meaning of this assembly?" Sarah stepped forward. "Your Majesty, my crew has completed your trials. We respectfully request permission to repair our ship and return to human space." "You have done more than complete trials," the Emperor said coldly. "You have corrupted my subjects with dangerous ideas." "What ideas?" Elena asked innocently. "Teaching people how to maintain equipment, sharing medical knowledge, helping different species communicate better. You have made them question the natural order." The Emperor's voice boomed through the chamber. "You have taught slaves to believe they are equals," Jimmy frowned. "Your Majesty, with respect, they're not slaves. They're people. They have skills, knowledge, and ideas that could benefit everyone if you let them contribute." The Emperor rose from his throne. "They are conquered. They exist to serve the Empire's needs." Max scratched his head. "But that's incredibly inefficient. You're wasting most of their potential. It's like using a computer as a paperweight. Technically functional, but missing the point entirely." The Emperor's golden markings were now blazing with anger. "You dare question the foundation of the Empire?" Sarah looked around at all the faces watching this confrontation. Kethvar guards, conquered species, even some Kethvar civilians who had come to see the humans who had turned their prison into something resembling a community. "Your Majesty," she said quietly, "I'm not questioning your empire. I'm asking if it's working the way you want it to work." "It has worked for 1,000 years, has it?" Sarah asked. "Commander Thekmol told me that rebellions happen constantly. Your prison systems were failing until we helped fix them. Your own people seem frustrated with the way things work. Maybe the Empire has been surviving for 1,000 years, but has it been thriving?" The Emperor stared at her. Nobody had ever asked him that question before. Elena stepped forward. "Your Majesty, your species achieved incredible things. You built an interstellar civilization, developed amazing technology, and created stable government across multiple star systems. Those are remarkable accomplishments. The Emperor's anger flickered with confusion. Was the human praising him? But, Elena continued, you did all that by conquering and suppressing other species. What if you had done it by cooperating with them instead? Imagine what you could have accomplished with all that additional creativity and knowledge working with you instead of against you. Jimmy nodded enthusiastically. The economic benefits alone would be enormous. Instead of spending resources on suppressing rebellions, you could be investing in research, exploration, art, culture. The possibilities are endless. Mac was looking around the throne room with his engineer's eye. Plus, your infrastructure could be so much better with proper cooperation. I've seen some of the other species' technology. Combined with Kethvar engineering, you could probably solve energy shortages, improve transportation, maybe even extend lifespans. The Emperor sat back down heavily. You think the Empire could be improved? Everything can be improved, Sarah said gently. That's what humans do. We see problems and we try to fix them. Not because we want to destroy what exists, but because we want to make it better. For a long moment, the chamber was silent, except for the hum of technology. Then the Emperor spoke again, and his voice was different, quieter, more uncertain. And, if I were to consider these improvements, what would you require? Sarah smiled. Nothing, Your Majesty. We would just ask for the same thing we asked for at the beginning, permission to go home. But you would leave behind everything you have taught? Elena nodded. Knowledge wants to be shared. That's how progress works. Jimmy grinned. Besides, we've made friends here. Friends help each other. Max shrugged. And somebody needs to maintain all the equipment we helped fix. Might as well be the people who understand it best. The Emperor looked around at his people. Guards, workers, commanders, civilians. For the first time, he tried to see them as individuals instead of parts of his machine. Many of them looked back with expressions he had never noticed before. Hope, curiosity, possibility. Very well, he said finally. You may repair your ship and return to your people. And we will consider your suggestions. Commander Thecamol stepped forward. My lord, what if these improvements work? What if cooperation truly is better than conquest? The Emperor's golden markings flickered thoughtfully. Then, Commander, we will have learned something valuable from our prisoners. Former prisoners, Sarah corrected gently. 6 months later, the Lucky Break finally limped home to Earth. The crew filed a routine exploration report that mentioned minor cultural exchanges with local populations, and interesting technological cooperation opportunities in the Galactic Rim. They did not mention that they had accidentally triggered the collapse of a 1,000-year-old empire by treating people with kindness and sharing their knowledge freely. Behind them, the former Kethvar territory was reorganizing itself into something new. The Free Worlds Coalition operated on principles of cooperation, shared knowledge, and mutual respect. Former subject species worked alongside Kethvar as equals. Technology improved rapidly as different species shared their expertise.